Nightshade walked, so Bayonetta can run. Her bonnet is stylish, evasive, and even has her own catchphrase.
Today isn't your day. You better hope your warranty is still good.
Just looking at this opening set piece, we're fighting on the stealth jet as it zooms through the city. Where else have we seen this before? So yeah, I kinda like Nightshade a lot, especially for it being a trailblazer in the genre, doing some cool things before a standard was really set for an action games way back in 2003. Also, that kick you just saw how she reflected an oncoming missile, it's not just for show, you can actually do that in game. This is combat overview. In this series I go over the general controls, to the game's main mechanic or mechanics, who or what we use those tools on, and then seeing how it all comes together. Bit more in depth, but that's what we do. So Nightshade is a fast-paced action game with a small move list, but requires you to master it for on-the-fly decision making to build up and maintain this momentum bar that'll increase your damage output the higher and longer you can keep it going. The basics, of course we gotta have our katana to slash them away, has a short little combo and just pretty solid. Holding back with the left thumbstick while you attack will do these quick stubby multi-hits that build up your chakra to meter up top, but we'll get into that later. Also, a nice detail I like about her attacks, if you let the animations play out, you can kinda see her do a little pose afterwards. Pretty neat. We have this kick, which guard breaks and destroys armor. It'll open up enemies so your katana can actually land a hit on them without bouncing off, which is a no-no when you want to have little to no time wasted to keep that momentum going, right? And again, holding back with the left thumbstick and triangle will launch him. Now there's only one follow-up with this. By jumping and then kicking again, this will have you slam him into the ground, creating a crowd control shockwave, which also knocks down nearby enemies, letting you open up a few people at once. We have shurikens to toss out. They're limited, but you find them sprinkled throughout the stage. And I never felt I had to use them sparingly or anything like that. You'll most likely have some to use when time calls for it. So onto what they actually do. They'll stun whoever you hit for a second, so you can start your combo on them with these, or if you're in a pickle, you gotta save your momentum from ending by getting a quick hit on something. And similar to its origins, around the peak of your jump, tossing out a shuriken will instead shoot out a handful of them, doing this crowd control stun to multiple targets at once, but at a higher cost, of course. And lastly, we have this dash. Helps you zip towards an enemy, which is important to cut out any downtime. Now this gets a little interesting once used in the air. So we have one dash and one hit mid-air. But if you hit an enemy, all your resources will come back, giving you another dash and one more attack. So this means you can chain these together to do these fast aerial combos. Super satisfying to do, and is even used for some platforming to mix it up too. And a little tip, if your air dash is a bit short on getting you close enough to land a hit, you can kick mid-air as well for a second forward moving option. For defense, as you'd expect it to be, is kind of non-existent here. The dash we have is the embodiment of the phrase, the best defense is a good offense. So stay moving at all costs and you won't get hit, which again plays into maintaining that momentum, which our lock-on really helps with that. It's very important to keep things going because it'll point you to the right direction to zoom towards them with that dash. Now, an interesting thing about the dash and the lock-on, if you're up close to an enemy and dash sideways, you go behind them. So this can be done instead of guard breaking if that might take too much time, and it can also avoid some of the risk of being hit by someone else. Also, attacking someone from behind will do extra damage. So there you go. Onto our HUD, and okay. I know this looks like a mess of stuff, but we'll get through this. So this orange-yellow gradient is our health. Little to the left is our shurikens, and this hexagon with these blue segments just show you how many of those crowd control burst tosses you can afford to dish out with what you have. Got these scrolls, which is our ninjutsu, and these little icons underneath is what we have currently equipped. Like this proximity explosion dealing damage to whoever's nearby, which also breaks armor, so very good on bosses. One to add a few blade beams to your attack, never really used much honestly. And one to better your dash, letting you spam it and gives you some iframes on it. This especially helps bypass environmental hazards that try and slow you down. Okay, now to look into the game's main thing. So around your chakra gauge we have this thin meter around it filling up. It's called the Tate timer. Once you kill an enemy, then this timer starts, and begins to empty. From here, every hit you land, both with the long and short swords and shurikens, will add to it as well. Kicks won't though. Okay, so the game is constantly revolving around this timer and trying to maintain it, kind of like a momentum thing going on. And the higher your kill count during the single tate, it'll increase your damage across the board as you keep it going. So this lets you zigzag from enemy to enemy, taking them out with ease, since the more enemies you get chained in this combo, the more damage you do. So this rewards you for being quick and knowing how to take out enemies in an instant. And that's where the base moves come into play. The kicks to open them up or set up crowd control, or toss out shurikens to bypass a tricky enemy placement or to attack them with these. And those aerial reset combos going on with the multi-jumps and those air dashes. Everything's fast, responsive, and incentivizes constant movement. And as your reward for these long combos and chaining all these enemies together, you'll get a more and more flashier finish to end the fight, depending on the number. It'll have you do this final finish to the fight. And it doesn't get stale seeing this over and over, because your pose will change. The game will do these different cinematic camera angles too, like zooming in on everyone you killed before they explode. And sometimes they'll add filters when you get really high chain count. It's kind of like a Zandatsu in that way, giving you this flashy, stylish, visual reward for what you did. But here, they save it till the end for a little cherry on top to each and every fight. Alright, we're almost done. Because as you're doing that, you're building up 3 charges to spend for a powerful charge. This is our chakra gauge. It fills up by landing hits, and higher the attack combo means more return for those hits. So it's a good idea to look out for those openings to use the back square attack for the quick multi-hits to build up meter to stock up for the boss fight later. Because honestly, we have more than enough tools to never use this on enemies throughout the stage. So best to build it up and save it for later. And to use it, hold square will have you hunker down, creating multiple images of yourself before attacking a single target. You need at least a third of the chakra gauge to do this, but the more you have, the stronger that charge attack becomes. And then add that on top of the damage buff you get with the kill tate chain. This is something you want to know how to do, because a boss requires you to master it. Because they do bring out little helpers to attack you while they fight you as well. Now you would think fighting a boss like this would be annoying, but here we can use them to our advantage to set up all these damage buffs for ourselves. When it comes to enemies, we have cannon fodder little spiders just meant to give you some easy chains. Big armored spiders that'll shoot you from afar or swipe you if you're too close. Some regular humans and some with shields, trying to hit them with their katana will most likely be blocked or they'll rush you down. So you gotta kick those doors open or rush behind them. Huge tank that'll shoot at you periodically, but has armor that you gotta kick off first. And a tip to know if they have armor or not: when locked on, if it's red, they're armored. Once it's blue, then it's gone. Still gotta look out if they're blocking enemy types or not. But yeah, enemies are pretty simple overall, and you'll see the same ones just reskinned throughout the game. They'll still react to you the same way and vice versa. They're either used to continue a combo with these, or you gotta break their guards first or get behind them. But the game mixes it up with the stage layouts to make them interactions a bit more fun. And the bosses, we chase the main bad guy who has an entourage of powerful goons we have to take down along the way. Something we see later on in action games, right? And one of them is this reoccurring robot who you fight and beat multiple times. It comes back repaired with more to offer, pretty much acting as one of our rival fights throughout the game, which is pretty cool. And that's Nightshade. As soon as I finished it for the first time, it became an instant classic for me. It has a very snappy and fast-paced combat loop that requires mastery over your movement and attack options to chain combos to build momentum. And I mentioned this earlier, but even though the combat might seem simple because the moveset we start out with is how it'll be till the end, and the enemies being pretty straightforward overall, but what helps elevate the combat are these stages. They just add nice little flavor to things, like having this huge screen display your actions mid-boss fight, or how you hop from bus to bus as the last one is about to explode, or my favorite one being this section in the subway, how the lights of the passing trains are broken up by these pillars as you fight. Just super cool details like that make it so much more enjoyable. Yeah, just what a cool game. Also, there's hidden encounters to find just like those extra verses in Bayonetta. There's even a good amount of extra content to dig into afterwards, like unlocking costumes, or even more playable characters who play a bit different from each other, and they'll unlock depending on the difficulty you beat the game on. Kind of like Beautiful Joe in that way. Plus we have a survival mode, which always gets a gold star for me. There's also a mission mode for those extra challenges. You gotta find these little hidden coins though to unlock one new mission for each mode at a time, which isn't how I would have done it, but it is what it is. But yeah, you even have a stage select and a theater mode to rewatch some cutscenes. So Nightshade is just a sound, solid action game that did the genre justice, and to be this strong start to the kick butt ladies to follow as well. Speaking of that, for this month's theme, we're gonna look at just that. We're gonna look at some action games where the ladies are the ones dishing out the damage. So we saw Nightshade. Next, we're gonna look at Onichimbara. 2 games came out on my birthday years ago, so we'll probably do a little combo video for that one. Then Shenron Kagura Rebirth Renewal. Of course, some more ninja action. And to end it off, Legend of Korra, the Platinum tie-in game. So yeah, looking forward to this month because my birthday's on the 7th, and because Valentine's Day and all that, so let's show some love.